This is ATN International News. First, the headlines. 543 workers held down in gold mine by rival union.
Israel kills 50 in last hour. Worker urinates into Singtel beer vat at factory.
Prime Minister Catherine Jacob-Dastur joins women's strike.
Israel's UN ambassador says UN chief should resign.
Buckingham Palace commends Pratt for his philanthropy amidst controversy. At least 500 workers are being held down a South African gold mine by a rival union, according to the head of the site. The incident began when miners from the opposing unregistered union allegedly prevented hundreds of employees leaving after they had finished their night shift on Monday at the Moda East mine to the east of Johannesburg. Some 15 miners were wounded in the ensuing scuffles, but at least one suffering a serious head injury. The mine's chief surfaced, but were also taken captive. Mr. Harry Court, who oversees New Clayfontaine Gold Mine Company, which manages the mine, said he did not know exactly how many of the miners were being held hostage by those from the other union. The National Union of Mine Workers, which is the only recognized union at the mine, said more than 500 of
prepared carefully by Hamas, he said at a media briefing in the town of Sidrof, close to Gaza. He added, we know that had we entered the Gaza Strip on the first or second or third day, we would have fallen into deadly traps that would have meant also probably very important losses in terms of Israeli soldiers. So we are taking our time because we understand that we have to be careful. We understand that we are not just walking into a place which is an innocent place. The military is taking the time, indeed. Our military also needs to prepare the soldiers to this unique situation.
The Israeli military has been dropping leaflets in Gaza asking Palestinians to reveal information on hostages' whereabouts. In exchange, the military promised a reward and protection for any informants at home. Hamas seized more than 200 people and killed another 1,400 in a cross-border raid into Israel on 7th October. If your will is to live in peace and to have a better future for your children, do the humanitarian deed immediately and share verified and valuable information about hostages being held in your area, the military said in the leaflet. The Israeli military assures you that it will invest maximum effort in providing security for you and your home, and you will receive a financial reward. We guarantee you a complete confidentiality. The leaflet listed phone numbers to call with information.
Israel is putting in maximum effort to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza, an advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu has said. Mark Regev told press it is crucial the country keeps the pressure up on Hamas, both militarily and diplomatically. A ground offensive into Gaza has been expected by Israel, and Mr. Regev said, we will attack when it is right time, for us when it is the best moment, and we will achieve a decisive victory. Inside Gaza, the bombardment of the region has been criticized by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who said earlier today the attacks were deeply alarming. Asked about his comments, Mr. Regev said Mr. Guterres is relying like everyone else on statistics that are put out by the Hamas-controlled Ministry of Health. I've got no doubt that civilians have been caught up In the crossfire between us and Hamas, that's a fact of war. But we are making a maximum effort to avoid civilian casualties, he added.
The release of 4 hostages by Hamas will not make Israel forget its crime, and Israel Defense Force spokesman has said. Addressing a news briefing this evening, Daniel Hagari also touched on the issue of fuel in Gaza, saying Hamas should resupply fuel to hospitals after it stole all the fuel from the United Nations Relief and Human Development Agency while providing no evidence for that claim. We will not forget that Hamas did this horrible massacre, and we will not forget that while we are talking now, there are babies, children, young women, old women, and men held hostage by Hamas, he said. Israel is escalating its bombardment of targets in the Gaza Strip ahead of an expected ground invasion. Gaza's 2.3 million people have been running out of food, water, and medicine since Israel sealed off the territory following the Hamas attack on Israeli towns on 7th October. The UN said distribution would have to stop if there was no fuel for the trucks.
The Israeli Defense Forces has shared an audio recording it claims features a Hamas fighter bragging about killing 10 Jewish people. The clip, which has not been independently verified, purports to show a Hamas militant calling his family from a dead woman's phone to tell them he has killed the people with his own hands. It was played at the UN Security Council by Israel's foreign minister this evening. Open my WhatsApp now and you'll see all those killed. The voice says in the call, Dad, I'm talking to you from a Jewish woman's phone. I killed her and I killed her husband. I killed 10 with my own hands, Dad, 10 with my own hands. You are watching the international news on Atlantic Television Network. We will be back after this break.
This is ATN International News. Now to the rest of our stories. A man was seen urinating into a vat at Tsingtao beer factory, with the brand now opening a probe into the incident. Video shows a man dressed in a hat and blue overalls climbing down into a malt container at the Chinese beer factory in Pingdu, unzipping his trousers and relieving himself. Tsingtao, which describes itself as the 6th largest global beer maker, said they have sealed all badges linked to the incident. They said in a statement, our company attaches high importance to the relevant video that emerged from Tsingtao Brewery number 3 on 19th October. We reported the incident to the police at the earliest opportunity, and the public security organizations are involved in the investigation. At present, the batch of malt in question has been completely sealed. The company continues to strengthen its management procedures and ensure product quality. A source told local outlet Yikai that the man filmed is not a Tsingtao employee, but a loader hired by a third-party labor supplier. However, the incident damaged Tsingtao as shares on the Shanghai Stock Exchange dropped by 1% on Friday and by 7.5% on Monday morning.
Women and non-binary people in Iceland are striking on Tuesday to protest against the country's persistent gender pay gap and a widespread gender-based and sexual violence. The action comes almost 48 years after Iceland's women first refused to work both inside and outside the home to prove their value to society, an unprecedented level of societal industrial action that paved the way for more equality and the female president. Women workers in all sectors of the country will be absent from work in a cabinet-free Women's Day off. Among them, Prime Minister Katrin Doster. First and foremost, I am showing solidarity with Icelandic women. With this, Jack Boster told the women, the media, it's great that our Prime Minister is on strike. It shows how important this is. She is encouraging everyone, even though she is in privileged position. She is fighting for equal rights for all women in Iceland. Finnboga Salome, one of the organizers of the strike and a member of BSRB, the Icelandic Federation of Public Employees, told press she's fighting for women that are disabled, where non-ordinary. For example, these are the people who are discriminated against in the labor market and face many injustices, she added. Symbolically, the strike takes place on the same day as the historic 1975 strike. In that year, data confirmed that 90% of women took part in the 50 called Kevin Afri. The workplaces were empty and the streets crowded. In Reykjavik, the country's capital, some 25,000 women gathered, a significant number given that Iceland's total population at the time was just 210,000. Tens of thousands of women are expected to participate in this one-day strike. We think it will be a massive strike. There is a great atmosphere in society, said Salome. Sectors where women make up the majority of the workforce, such as health and education, will particularly be affected.
The leaders of Poland's opposition parties that together won the most votes in Poland's recent election announced on Tuesday that Donald Tusk, the leader of the largest group, is their candidate to be prime minister and that they want to get to work as soon as possible. We are ready to create a government, Tusk, a former prime minister who heads the Civic Platform Party, said as he and other opposition party leaders stood together in parliament to announce their decision to cooperate. He thanked the other leaders for their trust. The announcement came on the day the President Andrzej Duda opened 2 days of consultations with the representatives of parties that won seats in the new parliament. Duda first welcomed Prime Minister Mesut Morawiecki and others from the conservative ruling Law and Justice Party to the presidential palace, but not party leader Jaroslaw Kaczyński. Tusk, a pro-EU centrist who is a former president of the European Council, later also met with Duda along with other members of his electoral alliance. Tuesday's developments mark important steps on the path to the formation of a government after the national election on 15th October, though it is unclear when a new government can take over in the Central European nation of 38 million people. The opposition groups who won the most votes campaigned on promises to restore democratic standards and ties with the European Union that wasn't over 8 years of rule by law and justice. They together won over 54% of the votes and will have a comfortable majority of 248 seats in 460 seats in the lower house of parliament. They took an even greater share of the seats in the Senate, though it has far less power. When a new government will take over depends on Duda. It is the president's responsibility to call the first meeting of the new parliament, something which must happen no later than 30 days after the election. Duda must also ask a candidate for prime minister to try to build a cabinet that can win a vote of confidence in the Senate. It might not be until December that a new government is sworn in if Duda chooses to wait till the full 30 days to call parliament, and if he first asks the ruling Law and Justice Party to try to build a government.
Moscow has crumbled and turned away from the Russian border, RIA quotes the defense ministry as saying.
Kremlin has diminished fresh speculation that Russian President Vladimir Putin is ill and called rumors that he uses a body double as an absurd hoax. The comments from Kremlin's Dmitry Peskov came after the general SVR Telegram channel, which regularly alleges Mr. Putin is terminally ill with cancer, claimed he suffered cardiac arrest on Sunday evening. Everything is fine with him. This is absolutely another fake story, Mr. Peskov said when he was asked about the report during a regular media briefing on Tuesday morning. He then called claims that the Russian leader has a body double as absurd horse. Speculation over a Putin body double goes back years. The 71-year-old admitted in 2020 that he had in fact been offered the chance to use a body double for his protection in the past, but he said he rejected the offer.
Vladimir Nekrasov, the chairman of Russia's Lukoil, has died suddenly at the age of 66. His company said he suffered acute heart failure. Announcing his death, Lukoil said Mr. Nekrasov had worked for almost 50 years in the oil and gas sector. The company declined to comment further on his death. The previous
a 66-year-old resident were injured. Russian forces have relentlessly shelled Kherson since the city and surrounding area was liberated in November.
In a secret location in Ukraine, Kyiv region, Russian defectors are taking part in military exercises. The Siberian battalion is fighting on the side of Ukraine and made up of Russians. The battalion was set up by a former Russian military intelligence officer with the aim of disrupting Russian activities, local reports have said. Founder Vladislav Amnosov told press that his battalion is ready to deploy immediately into Russian territory as a part of a sabotage and reconnaissance group and destroy enemies who support Putin's authorities. He said the unit is filled with dissidents. A town that was home to 30,000 before Moscow's full-scale assaults began. Amidst the sheltered homes and rubble-strewn streets of Avdiivka, Ukrainian police attempting to persuade its 1,500 residents to leave while volunteers risked their lives to deliver food and water to those who are determined to remain. The town, which grew up around a coke plant in eastern Ukraine's
report of an attempted Ukrainian attack on Crimea overnight. Moscow said it propelled an underwater sabotage attack by unnamed Ukrainian boats.
22 Russian news sources have been blocked in Moldova over security concerns. Moldova's intelligence and security service said the sites had been used as part of an information war against the country. Prominent news sites such as Russia Today, NTV, and RAN TV among those blocked. Moldova said internet providers had been called national who was in Belgium illegally killed 2 Swedes. The 2 who have been confirmed to be Tunisian nationals in the 40s and 50s were indicated by a judge in Paris. The French National Terrorism Prosecution Office told press on Tuesday. The 2 are among 4 arrested last week as part of the investigation looking into a possible accomplices of the Brussels attacker. They are suspected of criminal terrorist conspiracy and were placed in pre-trial detention. One of the men, the one in his 40s, has lived for almost 20 years in France and formally contested the accusation. He has nothing to do with the attack, said the lawyer, Suleiman Rakroki. The attacker is a friend he has known for a long time, from whom he had not seen any sign of radicalization. He could never have imagined such an act. A lawyer for the other man preferred not to comment. Investigations are continuing to clarify their links with the Brussels attacker. Abdesalam Lazoed, Belgian investigators previously said there was no evidence suggesting the man acted as part of a network.
The UK's momentum in maintaining its leadership in supporting UK is flagging the Shadow Defence Secretary to the House of Commons, asking an urgent question during Haley, said we must work to maintain this leadership and accelerate support. And I fear the UK momentum is flagging. He pointed to the fact that new Defense Secretary Grant Shapps is yet to make a statement on Ukraine to Parliament since his appointment. Labour backs the recent UK military aid announcement, but Ukrainians are asking for winter support for air defence, more ammunition, he said. Where is the UK's planned response? There is no new money for military aid for Ukraine has been committed by this Prime Minister.
A 71-year-old man has been sentenced to 6 years and 8 months in prison after arranging a rape of a 12-week-old baby. Mark Wally from Manchester was arrested in the foyer of a hotel in the city centre where he had planned to carry out the abuse. He was
in the UK. Delivering the ruling in East Belgium was recruited, transferred and then harbored for the purpose of sexual exploitation. This did not prevent then Home Secretary Sajid Javid from removing her citizenship. At the Court of Appeal in London on Tuesday, her lawyers began another bid to overturn the decision, which the Home Office is opposing. Her legal team claims the Home Office failed to consider the legal duties owed to Ms. Begum as a potential trafficking victim. Samantha Nine's KC said in written submissions, Ms. Begum's trafficking was a mandatory relevant consideration in determining whether it was conducive to the public good and proportionate to deprive her of her citizenship. But in written submissions, the fact that someone is radicalized and may have been manipulated
to the statue on Instagram on Monday. For the record, I'm going to have my team reach out to our friends at Grabin Museum in Paris, France, so we can work at updating my wax figure here with some important details and improvements, starting with my skin color. The Grabin Museum in Paris said Johnson was right to point out the inaccurate skin tone and that it was fixed overnight. We have remedied the skin tone, a spokesman for the museum said.
To resign from his post. It comes after the UN Secretary General called for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, accusing both sides of killing and injuring civilians in violation of international humanitarian law. Mr. Guterres said Israel and Hamas, accusing both sides of killing and injuring civilians in violation of international humanitarian law. Mr. Eden said Mr. Guterres has lost all morality and
in the shooting at Major Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland on Valentine's Day 2018. The attack left 14 students and 3 staff members dead. Catalano also received 3 years probation and must undergo mental health treatment. He sent the grieving father messages for 8 months beginning in December 2021, celebrating James Gutenberg's death and revealing in the wounds she suffered. He also mocked Mr. Gutenberg's flaws and disturbing insults at him and his deceased daughter. Catalan told investigators he was angry at Mr. Gutenberg for his outspoken backing for gun control since his daughter's death. He told him he believed Mr. Gutenberg was using his daughter's death to push his political agenda and was trying to put him in check by sending him messages. Mr. Gutenberg said that the sentence is a big deal and sends a message to those who cyberstalk the families of shooting victims. Shooting victims that they will be caught in the totality the constituted one.
Police.
At least 7 people are dead and 30 injured after so-called